My cheating, lying father abandoned us when I was a kid. Then he comes groveling back into my life once he finds out I'm rich. That's right, I won the lottery. I'm not kidding, it's a lot of money. And I'm not giving him anything. I'm buying my mom a house, I'm going to college for free, and I'm not going to buy him anything, and he's begging me, pleading with me to get him a car, and this is what I tell him. Hey, my name's Emmy. I mostly raised by my mom, Amanda, because my father, Ian, was always out on business trips and then they just got divorced. We stopped meeting except on special occasions and family gatherings, but that hasn't stopped him from thinking that I owe him something when he wasn't even a part of my childhood. I grew up with my parents who did not particularly like each other. Especially my dad. They got married pretty early on after graduating, and I can't even imagine them ever being in love enough to marry each other because from a very young age I only saw my parents tolerate each other. My mother had a teaching job that did not pay very well, but she liked it because it got her out of the home. While my father did everything to stay away from his family. He often went on business trips and worked long hours. During weekends, he would go and drink with his friends all day long just to stay away. It suited me and my mother just fine, especially because I liked my mother a whole lot more than I liked my father. My mother knew how to show her love to me. She and I never fought and we were pretty tight. I told her everything, and I mean everything, and she gave me advice if I ever needed it. She's the kind of mother every daughter wishes to have. Understanding, kind, never bullied me, and said one bad word about me never. She made me into the woman that I'm actually today. Confident, self-assured, you name it. On the other hand, my relationship with my dad is rocky. We were never close and we did not talk much. However, as I was growing up, he always made negative comments about me. He would criticize how I did my hair, or what sort of clothing I wore. I did understand his point, mainly just because I dyed my hair funky colors and kept it quite short when I was young. I also liked to wear funky, colorful clothing. Things deteriorated further when I hit my early teens. He was relentless when he talked negatively about my body, telling me to lose weight or not wear that because it makes me look ugly. But I always had my mother who supported me, so I didn't really care about his opinion on my body and what I wore. It wasn't just my relationship with my father that was messed up. His relationship with my mother was also very unusual and nasty. He was often disrespectful towards her and never had any kind words to say. And he would turn especially nasty when he would come back home from drinking with his buddies. And he was sometimes very free with his fist, and then my mom and I would usually just avoid him until he was sober enough to interact with. However, about 4 years ago, while Dad was taking a shower, my mom saw his phone get a text message. She peeked at it and was shocked to find a naughty text from someone. She gets furious, and when my dad came out, she demanded that he put the password into the phone and she wants to inspect the message. My dad was instantly furious and decided to gaslight my mom by saying that she was overstepping his boundaries. But my mom had already seen enough to not be manipulated by him. She revealed that she saw a text from a woman in the notification and already knew enough. She was hurt by his actions and she made herself clear. But my dad tried to excuse his behavior. He said that he only slept with other women because my mom was so controlling, making him do work around the house. The only time I've ever seen my mom control my dad and make him work around the house is when she asked him to change the light bulbs. She couldn't reach it herself or ask to, go to the grocery store shopping on the weekends. Big deal. So then my dad reversed the blame on her, claiming that he's mad now that my mother is mad at him. He claimed that it wasn't his fault that he cheated, because they didn't really get along anyways, and that he hates her controlling nature. My mother screamed that if that were the case, then he could have discussed that with her, and they could have, gotten a mutual divorce instead of cheating on her and breaking her little heart. My dad then starts screaming about how she was selfish and unreasonable, so he still can't imagine the outcome with her. That's why he had to go out on so many business trips just to get rid of her. Apparently, this had been going on for years since I was 4 years of age. I remember the day very well. They had fought for hours and I heard my mother cry. All the while, my dad blamed her for his infidelity. Even back then, I knew he was the selfish and unreasonable one. How could he even blame his lapse in judgment or 11 years on my mom? But he did. My father had been furious and physically threw my mother out of the home. We spent the next week at my grandparents' house, and my grandparents were furious, mainly because they had never approved of my dad. They disliked him since the beginning and never wanted their daughter to marry him. They were internally happy about this, which only made my mother more furious and lash out at them. When we went back to my dad's house to get our things back, he had already packed them up for us. It's like he was eager to get rid of us. Now that his secret was out, it didn't take him long to get us out of this life. Only a week, we're gone. But it was fine because my mother was already going to ask for a divorce, and his behavior raised no question about whether he wanted my custody. It was crystal clear that he wanted to do nothing with me, and he proved that abundantly in the upcoming months to come. We spent the next month looking for an apartment and a divorce lawyer. It was a hard month for my mom. I, on the other hand, was more focused on my mother to actually understand what this meant for me. We were soon settled down and the divorce proceedings begun. My mother had gotten enough money out of the divorce to get a new home, which was very small but still better than our previous crappy apartment, where we had spent a few months on her meager teacher salary. My mother had gotten full custody of me, but my father was allowed to visit me, and I was allowed to visit him. But he never visited me or asked me to come see him. It was clear that he saw this divorce as a freedom from everything that was initially bogging him down in his eyes, which were my mom and me. My mother wanted me to still have a relationship with my dad's side of the family, so she would drop me off at their stupid birthday parties and family gatherings, and that was the only time I ever saw my dad. And even then, we barely exchanged words. We would just greet each other at the start and say goodbye at the end. And that was our relationship for the past 4 years. At times, I felt like my dad did not like to see me. Even at the family gatherings, I often wonder if he regrets having me. Maybe if they hadn't had me, he could have divorced my mom sooner. Either way, I've never really had it in me to ask him about it. And his hostile stares at me during these gatherings always make me too anxious to even consider actually asking him. However, last month, I filled out an online lottery, just as a joke with my friends. I'd initially thought that it was funny, but last week I came home to an email claiming that I was the winner for hundreds of thousands of dollars. More money I knew what to do with. I'd sat there shocked until my mom came in to tell me that she was home. She had grown concerned when she saw my pale face, but when I revealed the good news to her, initially she was skeptical. But then she was so happy for me that she lunged at me to hug me. I'd wanted to go to college, but we didn't have enough money, so I took a year off to gather some funds. My mother also wanted me to be highly educated, being a teacher and all, and this lottery meant that I could easily go to college. It felt like all our dreams were starting to come true. However, for some reason, my father felt like he was entitled to the money. When the news broke to the rest of the family about the lottery, they were mostly happy for us. They knew that we were struggling a bit financially, except for my dad, who barged back into our lives expecting me to buy him a car, as he had been considering buying one for himself, but now he won't have to because he has a rich daughter. I shook my head and told him that I would not be buying him anything, as he had not been a part of my life for years. He'd been shocked and claimed that he's my dad. He brought me into this world, how can I refuse him? Well, I asked him what he had done for me in the past 4 years, and if he thought bringing me into this world was such a big deal. He claimed that he would have helped me out in any possible way only if I asked him. I laughed at him for that because everyone knew that it was a lie. Then I told him to leave me alone. Yep, told him to leave me alone. And I threw him out of my house, and he has been furious, banging at the front door loudly. I was just glad that my mom wasn't here to see her ex-husband embarrass himself again with his straight-up stupidity. But can you imagine asking the daughter you abandoned for money after she wins the lottery? That was shameless of him, I tell you. You know, even calling him dad, it makes me mad and makes me feel absolutely humiliated. How can one person be this unbearable, this unreasonable? Update number 1. Hey, it's Emmy again. 3 weeks ago, I shared how my father wanted me to share my lottery winnings with him, even though he completely abandoned me after he cheated on my mother and they got divorced. He had come to my house, expecting me to share my money because he brought me into this world, but I denied him with his request. I had thought that was it and he would completely ignore my existence like he has done for the past 4 years, but I was wrong in my assumption. He had not forgotten about my refusal to spend money on him, and he was not at all ready to forgive me for it. I'd been invited to a cousin's surprise birthday party. I'd been excited because we were close growing up. My mom, of course, did not accompany me, like she almost never did at such events. The only time that she went to a family gathering from my dad's side of the family was when my dad's sister got married a year ago because my dad's family adored my mom and my aunt specifically invited her. I'd reached the party before it began to help with the preparation and to surprise my cousin. I helped with some of the last-minute preparation and picked up the birthday cake on my way in. I had noticed that my father also arrived, smelling of booze, but when he saw me, he had grown furious and started screaming for inviting me to this party. He asked everyone who had invited his ungrateful daughter to the party when he specifically told everyone that he was cutting me off from his life. I rolled my eyes at him, making a drunken scene. I wasn't aware we had any contact since he had got divorced from my mom because of the way he had always treated me. But seeing me roll my eyes got him even angrier, and he descended upon me. He yelled at me for having the audacity to show my face at his family event after I so selfishly refused to help him out. I didn't really have anything to say to him, but his words were making me really anxious. However, the birthday girl, Angela, she arrived and my aunt was telling us to get in position to say happy birthday. But my dad totally ignored her and continued yelling at me all the while the birthday girl came in. And nobody wished her because they were too busy getting my dad out of the room for creating a scene. Humiliated, I ducked my head down and decided to leave. I wished my cousin a happy birthday on my way out, but that's it. I felt so embarrassed by how my own father treated me at the party that I was crying on my way home. I'm mad at him. He didn't only embarrass me and himself, but he also ruined my cousin's birthday. I mean, who does that? He has an issue with me, but he took it out on everyone? I'm humiliated to even be related to that man, and I wonder what his family thinks of me now. They must hate me. After all, if I hadn't been there, the party would not have been ruined. I feel like I should apologize to my cousin for ruining her surprise. Update number 2. Hey guys, it's Emmy again. Not even a week ago, I told you about my father creating a drunken scene at my cousin's birthday party, completely ruining the surprise party because of my presence. Well, I went to my cousin the next day to apologize for ruining the surprise, only to be surprised myself. I'd gone over to Angela's to apologize because her fiancé had put in a lot of effort into the party, and knowing that I ruined it with my presence made me feel very guilty. All night long, really. But when I apologized, Angela told me that I had nothing to apologize for. She revealed that my father should be apologizing to her instead of me, but she doesn't expect him to do so because he's a very entitled man who thinks too highly of himself while the rest of the family absolutely hates him. Angela revealed that after his divorce, he had been very rude and mean about my mother to everybody who would listen, saying the worst of things about her in front of everyone while being super wasted. Apparently, no one really likes him, and he had to deal with it because he was family. I'd been shocked by what Angela told me. The thing my dad used to say about my mom, and even me, he had been overjoyed when we were struggling financially, saying how we must regret breaking the family when he had been the one who would throw my mother out of the house physically. It wasn't just my cousin, but her mom too, who jumped into the conversation telling me all the horrible things that he said about us when my parents got separated. How he blamed everything on my mom and made it seem like it was all her fault when everyone knew my mom is a saint while he's just a bitter drunk. So, I told them about how my dad showed up at my house asking for money when I had won the lottery. That had really shocked them because of how he used to rejoice in our poor financial condition, while doing nothing to help us. He would feel superior when our condition deteriorated because clearly he was a good thing in our lives before, but he claimed that the same could not be said about us. And hearing all this only made me mad. How dare he badmouth my mom when he's the one that cheated on her and threw her out of the house physically? How dare he? Winning a lot of money in a lottery is not enough of a revenge, in my opinion. I want to do something to really hurt him. I want him to regret ever cheating on my mother in the first place, and I just want him to feel like he's lost something after he and my mother got divorced. Like he thinks we lost something. I need him to straight up regret everything he did to us and more. I know exactly what to do. I'm going to buy my mom a big home. Bigger than my dad could ever imagine, and I know that he'll be so jealous that I did that for my mom and I don't even buy him a car. And most importantly, it's a good investment for me and my mom, and I'll still have money left over to go to college next semester. I've already started looking for the house without telling anyone, except Angela, who's helping me. I know my mom will be so emotional when she sees the house, and I can't wait for my father to react to the news that I bought my mom a house with the money I won in the lottery, instead of buying him anything at all. Update number 3. Hey everyone, it's Emmy. I shared an update 2 months ago where I told you about how I decided to spend my lottery money on buying my mom a new house. Because she deserves it, and also because I know it'll make my dad super jealous. Well, I found an appropriate 4-bedroom house that I fell in love with. I also knew my mom would love the architecture, and she did. I showed my mother the house about a month ago, and she had been so emotional, and I bought the house in my mom's name because I wanted her to have it because she deserved all the good things in life. I'm the woman that I am because of her good teachings, despite my father's bad influence on me. And my dad had been furious, and he had apparently been bad-mouthing me to everyone about how I was selfish and unreasonable. How was I stupid for buying a house for my mom while I couldn't even buy him a car? After all, he was the one who brought me into this world, yada yada yada, but I didn't care what he had said about me behind my back. We immediately moved in and have been living here for a month now. It's way bigger than my father's house and has a huge backyard and a lawn in the front. It also has its own theater in the basement, even though none of us have used it. Angela and I have mad plans, just to host movie nights after her wedding, which was today. Angela had insisted that my mother came to her wedding. See, my mom had been reluctant at first, but she agreed to come when I got her a new beautiful dress. My father's favorite color is red, and I made sure my mom looked good enough to make him regret leaving her. And my mother looked defined today, like a goddess. The wedding went well in the beginning, but my father chose to ignore us just like we completely ignored him. And his side of the family was delighted to see my mother as well, because they adored her, and who wouldn't adore such a saintly woman? I know that made my father jealous, and it gave me such satisfaction knowing that he was furious. However, my mother had gone to get a drink when my father intercepted her. I mostly saw my father scream at my mom rather than hear it out because I was further away from them, but I was on my feet going towards them instantly. I overheard my dad claim that my mom had poisoned me against him. That's why I was throwing my money at her feet, and I wasn't even considering sharing my winnings. My father has always been a physically overpowering sort of guy, and he was often free with his hands when it came to my mom when he was drunk. And just like that, he pushed my mother over her stool. She landed hard on the ground with a thud, shocking the wedding guests around her into silence. I saw blood on her forehead and hands due to the glass shattering with the impact, and that was it for me. I ran up to my mom and helped her up, all the while screaming at Dad that I didn't give him money because I hate him. Because I know how he badmouthed my mom after he cheated on her and threw her out of the house. I told him that I would never give him money after knowing that he rejoiced in our poor financial situations, and then I called the police. He was shocked that I was calling the cops. He tried to lunge at me, but the wedding guests around him got to him first and stopped him from harming me. The police came in and took him away after that, while my uncles rushed my mom to the hospital, even after she told them that she was fine. She was in fact not fine, as she had gotten glass shards deep inside of her hand and even needed a minor surgery. Final update number 4. Hey guys, it's Emma here again. This last time I talked to you was about 4 months ago, and a few things have happened during that time, so I thought I would catch you up before I end this drama once and for all. First of all, my mother is fine. She's doing well. Her hand is still recovering as she had surgery, but overall she's doing well. She's going to physical therapy to get full functionality of her hand back, and she is so over my dad and angry too. And she put that anger into putting my father where he belongs, which is a jail cell. The court decided on my father's punishment, and he's going to jail for a few months. But most importantly, he'll have to pay my mom a hefty fine for his crimes against her. Poor guy, did all this for money and now he has to pay his ex-wife instead? Ha! Serves him right. The rest of the family actually testified against him, and surprising him for the first time, for some reason. I don't know why he was so shocked. They told the court that he was a nasty person. He really is. There was so much proof against my father, including numerous wedding guests, that he had no chance of not being convicted of assault. I'm so grateful to Angela and everyone who helped me out. They completely cut all contact with my dad immediately following the incident at the wedding, and then they offered to testify against him themselves, and I felt very emotional when that happened. I'm doing well. I just began college a week ago and I'm pursuing a B.Tech degree, computer science and engineering. I've always been good at computers, so it felt like the right step. Well, that's it, I guess. Thanks for following me on this journey, and I felt very frustrated in the beginning when I first wrote the first update. And knowing that you guys were reading really helped me get my head straight, so thank you. Top comment. It says, hey, oh gosh, all this drama could have been resolved if you had just gotten your dad a car. None of this would have happened if you have just spent a bit of money and moved your merry way. I understand that you didn't think that he was entitled to your money, but this all ended up with your mother having to get surgery. I just feel like you could have avoided that if you had not purposely messed with your dad, especially when your mother wasn't even involved in your revenge plan. Poor woman. You just got the brunt of your father's anger for no reason. I just hope she recovers well and gains full functionality in her hands soon. She doesn't deserve to be caught in the middle of your stupid game. Not after everything your father put her through, and that's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it.